good at holding on to chunks of dry ice.
Some gear yourself up with hats, shirts, and other cool merch at thekingofrandom.com. See you.
So I'm thinking it might just have
stories and updates as often as I can, and it's really the best way to connect.
It's a little bit neat to watch, but it's nothing very spectacular.
Take a bit. No explosions. Nothing violent. I wouldn't say it's finished, but it's a lot more cooked.
Personal life, come follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @thekingofrandom. I post
Then our first technique,
It would cook a little bit in
the bubble around the chunk of dry ice inside the oil. Well, that cooked all the way through. Ooh, you know, it's still a little soft, and I don't know if that's more from the heat of cooking or from the dry ice. It balloons up a little bit until a noose.
never seem to change texture and doesn't seem like it would be safe to eat. It's more calm and slow the way it was when we put it into the
Coming out. I'm also curious if it's cooked at all on
the dry ice. Solid turning into a gas is going to have a similar
super exciting thing, because that way the heat will have.
Now, we're going to see what happens if we wrap a bit of dry ice. We'll have to travel all the way through the oil to the dew. Our setup is pretty basic. We've got a bunch of cooking oil on a hot plate.
Last time our fry oil was so hot that I think we've got it pretty much in there. And of course, as soon as I get a good piece of dry ice in here, and hopefully we'll get the CO2 gas coming off of the dry ice has formed a sort of, here goes, dry ice into regular temperature cooking oil. Pretty, like I can tell by holding this cup.
The dry ice and wrapping our super hot oil through. All right, our oil I think has cooled down. After that, we'll move up to using our hot oil.
Well, it is bubbling quite a bit of the oil, and then it cooks our dry ice.
It's also possible that it's just going to stay so cold on the inside because of the dry ice, it will never cook all the way.
Very powerful fumes at this point. And then slowly lower it into the oil. And we'll see what happens when we deep fry our dough covered, close it really well.
Oil. When you put the dry ice directly into the
for biscuit dough wrapped around dry ice and then deep fried. So I'm gonna have to cut
the cold from the dry ice side, slightly lower and slower, a little bit more. And then I want to try this again to see if we can actually get a piece
on that side.
I have it a couple varieties of deep frying dry ice in hot more of the way through, but the part of the dough that was really in contact with the dry ice,
making its way over to one side of the pot, and then it's also more full on that side of the pot.
It tastes like fried dough. Big surprise. I'm going to try turning down the heat just for cooking, but it is, as I said, still possible that it's going to be so cook the outside of our dough in 5
connect with me directly. I'll see you there.
Remember, if you have any cool ideas for an experiment you want to see us try, let us know down in the comments.
Look at this, down inside though, you can see congealed oil stuff. There we go. This piece is all the
seconds like it did the first piece of bread dough or anything else that you would fry in some oil. It is maybe a little.
We've got frozen cooking oil there.
Fanning with it, it's still got this nice little, but there is another
more cooked than this completely raw dough we've got here. Had to let it get quite toasty on one side at least. Let's break this open and see if we've got any. Fortunately, I did have the tongs fairly close to the surface of the oil when it slipped.
Room temperature oil. That's why this is
inside the dough, and just
have here a little bit of water. If I put it
Crisco,
it's so very oily.
It's good. See, gooey that still is. Yeah, that's not cooked. Over.
Today we've got a cold on the inside that the oil won't be able to get in there and really heat it up. Thanks for joining us for this video today, and remember to... Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the workshop. Today we have an experiment we're going to try, brought to us oil. It does bubble and splash a little bit, but nothing very extreme. Not a lot.
5 seconds per side, so really
slightly more thorough.
Hey guys, if you want to catch up with some of the things I'm doing in my
dry ice, it's starting just a couple more seconds. It's looking kind of like the inside. That cooked very quickly, and of course up. I don't know. Let's find out. It's definitely going slower than before, which is a good geyser.
Expand identically when they get heated up. So I'm not sure if the expansion of volume from biscuit break $5. This has been a fun experiment for us. Thank you, user Reves, for your
see how stretched are quite cold, which expands rapidly. Clearly thick enough for the whole. just kind of gelatinous.
It's a chunk.
That the content splattering. Apparently see how it's done on the inside with rapidly inside the hot oil. These tongs aren't very top.
What that happens with some foods is in a comment request from user Revies, who says, pulls deep fried dry ice. Dry ice, dropping it down into our cool oil, and we'll see what happens there.
Well, it's bubbling. It's not doing
Well, I've never seen dry ice deep fried, so today we're going to find out what happens if we...
All right, we've got a little bit of... No, that's still pretty stringy in places.
Into frying hot cooking oil. It's cooked all the way through. It's starting to look perhaps a little bit burned, just because I want to see if we can actually...
Plenty of CO2 pumping its way out.
Try to cook the inside dough. Okay, that looks... They're actually given something of a batter around them when you deep fry them. So now...
Very raw on the inside. Super gross. I don't know. Raw dough. Here's a spot that looks like it's mostly cooked. Peel away a little more raw.
Whew, that's cold. That is so cold.
Don't flip yourself because it just makes a new hole every time you've got it all perfect. And you've got some oil leaked in.
Fry that in our cooking oil.
More time to get inside the biscuit before it burns the outside.
Comment request from user there. I have a cup of this same cooking oil, but it's at room temperature. So I'm going to try
Pretty well cooked on the outside. Take that out.
I'm just going to let it sit in there maybe a little bit longer, even until the outside.
How oily my gloves get just from picking it up. Let that shine.
Dry ice. Air viscosity. And it's definitely cool to the touch already.
Some of it spilled onto the plate. I kind of want to try wiping that off because we're getting a lot of... Just kind of runs right off of the... Oh!
There you go. Comments. And if we use your idea, we'll send you 25.
I don't know.
We're going to try and combine, but I think you could probably squeeze oil out of it.
It's expanded quite a bit.
More than if you put in a ice keeps.
Pull some of that out. I would have had a much bigger splash, even as it is. There's not these scrap pieces, but it's a lot more. It still would want a little more time, and I think the dry ice is preventing it from getting there.
Off a piece of our dry ice.
A little bit big.
Really didn't have any time to think I wanted to try. Some things when you deep fry them aren't placed the dough quite well, but
the oil
we up in some dough before we fry it. It does of course give us a different result. It seems to cook the outside of the scone or so we know it was very... Doesn't help that our whole hot plate is at a little bit of an angle as well. Overall, I would say that it's just going to be a little bit...
I don't really want to eat the sealed, but we'll try it. It's fairly well sealed.
That to the oil. Watch what happens.
All of the water gets heated up and...
An experiment, and we're about to find out.
Oh, and I dropped it.
But we do have a couple of things we want to try first before we go throwing our dry ice right into
on the other side.
Got one more piece I'm testing with a slightly smaller bit of dry ice. We've got some dry ice,
and we get a little bit thicker. A little bit higher
effect, or if it's...
Oh yeah, that is
directly into the hot oil themselves.
So you get a lot of bubbling and...
A fair amount. It's still hot enough to fry, but it's not so hot that it's just going to bubble and explode everywhere and have raw dough inside here. Let's break this.
Come up with a good name for this type of food.
Recommendation, check your YouTube inbox. We're sending you 25 bucks. Ice on the inside does seem to prevent the dough from cooking all the way through. High heat, it would just...
But it's definitely an improvement. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to drop this back in. Let's open and see what we've got. Splattering action from just one drop of water.
Dry ice and water don't...
It's cooled down enough from the dry ice.
Know that oil can, of course, react violently with some things. Taking off a piece of our dry...
Turns into steam. Spot opens up. So I don't think we're going to be able to get a perfect seal on this.
Out.
Otherwise... You can kind of see inside the cut that there is a little bit of a layer that's formed. Nothing, but it's also not... By the time the outside was cooked, it'd only been about...
Started this. I think that gave us some pretty good results of what happens if you drop dry ice. A little bit different than some things you would fry because it sinks all the way to the bottom of the oil, so the bubble...
Blob of solidified, gelled oil.
So the dry ice...
Not quite as thick as, say, butter or...
And just a drop of that.
So the bubbling makes it all splash over. That was a much larger way cooked all the way through, so I'll try this.
Time. It will still go fairly quickly, I think, but I'm ready to try wrapping another.
I don't think there's a name.
Ice in one of these biscuits and then
Seal on the dough. It starts expanding. Pretty cold on the inside as it was cooking.
just burn on the outside and stay raw on the inside.
Itself together.
So now moving on to the hot oil. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, and I
also think that as the oil is cooling down from the get that inside to cook all the way through.
Hi. Yay! Oh, one more time! Yay! Oh, let it go! Yay! Oh. Oh, wow! Oh.